So I made it to Death Valley National Park and I secured my campsite for tonight. This campground is pretty empty. There's only a few people set up. I wasn't sure if there was going to be a lot of people here, so I'm glad I secured a spot. And it's pretty hot. It's like in the 90s, 96 my car said, but it'll probably get a little hotter because it's not even peak day yet. It looks like I can have a fire since there's a fire ring here, so maybe I'll get some wood to have a fire tonight. It'll probably get pretty cool, even cold tonight, because the desert's like that. Hot in the day, cold at night. But I'm gonna go over and check out the Mesquite sand dunes. I haven't been there yet, and I'm pretty excited. So I made it to Mesquite sand dunes. When I got here, it was about 103 degrees, which is crazy hot for me. And it was just this, to hike up the sand dunes, it's very exposed. And I figured I would wait a couple hours till the sun was starting to go down and it wasn't as strong to hike around the sand dunes. But I'm glad I did because it feels a little cooler now. The breeze feels good. It's still hot, but the sun's starting to go down. I'm hoping to catch a good sunset out here. And it was busier earlier today, and I'm glad I waited because now there's not as many people out here. It is a tough climb, you know. Looking at the sand dunes, they don't look so big in front of you, but once you start walking up them, they are a whole different story. Anyway, the sand dunes are awesome. It's super windy at the top. I guess that's kind of why the dunes are here in the first place. The wind is blowing the sand into these formations. And so when you're standing on the ridge of the sand dune, it's super windy. Like all the wind is blowing up from this side of the dunes, and you can see the sand kind of like waterfalling over to the other side, which is kind of cool. I stopped here in the shade. The sun is setting on the other side of the dune, and I'm catching my breath a little bit. I have the whole dunes to myself right now, which is super nice. And I'm just gonna enjoy it. No rush, you know. My campsite is not too far from here, so I can take my time, soak it all in.
The sand soaked in the heat from baking in the sun all day, and even as the sun was going down, it was still hot. I went back to my campsite and did some yoga as the sun set, before having dinner and going to bed. I wanted to wake up early the next morning and go back to the dunes for the sunrise.
So I'm back at the Mesquite sand dunes. It is the morning. I got up right before the sun rose to come back over here and watch the sunrise. The sunrise, I think, was much better than the sunset because it was still hot at sunset yesterday and it was really windy. So when I was standing at the ridge line of those dunes, I was getting sandblasted. But today there's like no wind. It's still really cool. The sand feels cold. And it's really quiet. So I'm trying to get an early start on the day. This way I can maybe try to avoid some of the heat, hopefully find a shady spot. It got to 103 yesterday, which was really hot, and I'm definitely not drinking enough water, so I need to hydrate. But we'll see how today goes. Death Valley is known for having the hottest temperature recorded on Earth, so you have to be extra careful when you're out here.
I accidentally recorded this in time-lapse mode. Oops. Anyway, I ended up cutting my hikes short this day since it was 105 degrees and I hadn't been drinking enough water, so the heat was affecting me. I was also a little disappointed with the salt flats at Badwater Basin because they weren't salty and white like the last time I visited. On my way out of the park, I passed a race from Baker to Las Vegas, which was really cool to see. I can't believe these people were running through Death Valley in this heat, though. Regardless of the heat, my time in Death Valley was wonderful, and I loved every moment of it.